Jono said, you guys think Sidney Brown will get some starting reps in season? And what's with Ringo being unsigned? Yeah, I think Josh and I both think Josh would. I feel like I might speak for you here. I think Josh thinks that Sidney Brown has a real chance to start week 1, whereas I think Sidney Brown will be more a later towards the year guy. But we both like him. I think Josh likes him a little more than I do. Is that fair to say?
That's fair.
Do you think he's going to start week 1?
I
bet
don't.
Money on it.
If I had to bet money, no. But
Okay.
I've said that he could play himself into the
Okay.
starting job.
Yes.
But at the same time, like you said, I think that I'm a little bit higher. I don't know what percentage I would put on it yet, but
Yeah.
it wouldn't shock me if Sidney Brown's a starter on day 1, because I think that the potential is through the roof with him. It's just
Right.
how quickly can he get caught up to speed? And you've got a very solid veteran, obviously, in Terrell Edmunds. So if you like that, and I've seen this from some people, and I really don't know that there's a big question at all about Reed Blankenship, because we saw what he did previously. I know it's a small sample size, but some people are like, oh, Reed's not even going to play. It's going to be Terrell Edmunds and Sidney Brown. Like, I feel like that's the last case scenario of what's going to happen, because you know what you have in him. Now, yes, he's going to have to prove himself to a certain extent, but I mean, this is a guy who he had some very good gradings. He actually played well. James Bradbury said multiple times that he really loves playing out there with Reed Blankenship. So it feels like chemistry-wise, you're going to throw things off if you say, now we're going to take the ghost off the field. So to me, that's crazy. I feel like it's a battle between Terrell Edmunds and Sidney Brown. It wouldn't shock me if Sidney Brown is not starting on week 1, but like you alluded to, yeah, I'm high on him. I think that he can get on the field and end up playing eventually. But as far as the Kelee Ringo, I know we've kind of mentioned that a little bit. It happens. It happens with some rookies. It seems to be one for us, and usually one for every team every offseason. There's a guy that doesn't get signed immediately, whether it's a barely trying, because there's not a massive difference in contracts, but there's a little bit of nuances in the guaranteed money and what the contract they're trying to sign there. So maybe that's the case and what they're trying to figure out. But again, like we kind of opened with or talked about earlier, I don't think there's a huge concern. I mean, are you concerned at all that Kelee Ringo doesn't get signed?
No, and we've talked about it. There isn't any sort of real concern there. You would start to be concerned if day 1 rolls around and he's not there, and he's not there for the reasons you just mentioned, because there's some injury clause or some guaranteed money clause, because he needs to start learning. Now, thankfully, as in previous Eagle years, when you needed a cornerback immediately because they were so weak there, they don't need Kelee Ringo, right? You have no need for Kelee Ringo. His entire job this year is to simply learn and figure out how to best get on the football field in ways to help your team, and hope that it's not in a scenario where you're injured in any way. But going back to quickly on Sidney Brown here, I agree. I think he's great. I just think that if there is a position where you can look really lost really early and get exposed quickly, it's safety, because the quarterback's job essentially in the passing game is to fool you. Right now, he's fooling corners and he's looking off linebackers, but generally in a 2 deep safety situation, cover 3, man-to-man coverage, whatever, the quarterback's job is to move safeties, and young safeties all the time, especially against the good quarterbacks. We play a lot of them this year. You think Rodgers early on, Stafford early on, they will get exposed. And that's what was so impressive about Reed Blankenship coming in against Aaron Rodgers in that first game. And he didn't get moved around a lot and didn't get fooled a lot. So that's what you got to watch for early with Sidney Brown is, does he know what's going on here first and not just playing with his eyes? Because when you start playing with your eyes at safety, you can get in trouble real quick against the good quarterbacks. And we don't have a lot of easy games in the schedule to freak out about. So I agree. I think it'll be Blankenship and Edmunds, and it would take one of them slipping for Brown to come in. And I just don't see it happening early, but sure, later on. He'll still get on the football field. You'll have dime coverages where you can slide him in there. Of course, especially he'll earn his way. But, starting week 1,
too much potential.
Big deal on this defense. Yeah, a lot of potential. Dontel Dragon, a little late, but never misses a show. Coming in late. Hope
what's up?
Good.
Got you down.
2 entries. Dontel Dragon, slowly but surely.
Up to 40 entries now.
40 entries.
He's very methodical. I can appreciate that.
That is the way to do it. El Fences got here a little late, but had to get my 5 in. Smart.
Got you down too.
Very smart. Always smart to get your entry into the ticket giveaway. Even if you missed the show, it is a very good way. You know what? I think I had somebody do a super chat after last show that we might have missed. Yeah, okay. Sean Baker did two more 6 days ago. So make sure we get Sean Baker in there because he commented but late, so he has 2. Yeah. Okay. I think Blakenship will actually improve, although it was a small sample size. You really saw him out of position. A few times he learned from those mistakes. You think back to the Super Bowl, he wasn't the one we were exposing, right? Epps was beaten a couple of times, especially on that first touchdown to Kelsey, which was awful. And then it was the corners not figuring out the swap. And I believe that second time where the motion beat Philadelphia at the goal line, it was Epps and Slay that missed the whole handoff, and it wasn't Blankenship. It might have been for the first one. I don't remember, but at least in the Super Bowl, big stage for a young player, he didn't seem that lost. And so, if you want to give one up for whatchamacallit, for Marcus, or goodness gracious, read Blankenship. That's a good example. We tend to forget that at least this year in Philadelphia, every rookie is in a very unique situation when they come to the Eagles as they currently are constructed, because there are some teams where you get drafted, especially high in the draft, like your first pick, second pick, fifth pick, eighth pick. You're going to a roster that is either full of rookies or full of not very good veterans because they're bad football teams. And so if you're a Mod Sauce Gardner, for instance, you go to the Jets, there isn't this veteran cornerback where you get to go immediately learn underneath and like, oh my gosh, I share a locker room with that guy. It's like, hey, I'm Sauce. I'm probably the best cornerback here. You guys can learn something from me, even though I've never played it down in the National Football League. You come to Philadelphia, you think about learning to play guard. You're Tyler Steen. You have Landon Dickerson, who's one of the best left guards in the National Football League there. And then you have Jason Kelsey to your left, and then Lane Johnson to your right. You talk about being starstruck with people to also bounce questions off of, because naturally you're going to have them. Same with the cornerback room. Same with the defensive end room, defensive tackle room. Same with the safety room right now, at least from a Terrell Edmunds perspective. Same as a wide receiver coming in, a running back coming in with Boston Scott and Kenny Gainwell being there for a while. The only position group where you can make an argument if you came to Philadelphia and you're fresh this year and there isn't that star waiting is linebacker, but that's never been the case since Jeremiah Trotter and DeMeco Ryans essentially back in the day. It's a very unique situation that the good football teams always have and the bad ones are trying to get. And this year, you put on Eagles under the microscope and go, this is a team that is very excited to build the young people, and the young people are very excited to get in that building. Hence why when you say Keely Ringo's commenting on, James Bradbury's comments, it doesn't shock me at all. I mean, literally, I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. I do too. I can't wait to see it. I think there's going to be so much to learn, like you alluded to. There's so much, and these guys are also coming in with the right mentality too. Like, it's one thing to have these players that are going to be, obviously there's lots of potential and there's skill there, but to have the mentality of saying, I'm a sponge, and to not be entitled, which, there's a lot of rookies and a lot of younger players that can come in with that mentality, but coming in saying, hey, you know what? I'm not going to be a leader coming in. I mean, Nolan Smith, you got Jalen Carter, you've got Keely Ringo, Sidney Brown, like Tyler Steen, all these rookies coming in that are not just being like, oh yeah, for sure. Like, I'm going to be great. And I think they believe they're going to be great, but you don't go in and say like, yep, this is going to be me. I'm a first round pick, for the guys that are obviously Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter, but you don't go in like that. Instead, you say, you know what, I'm going to prove it. I'm going to earn respect, because I believe that respect is earned. And thankfully, I think that a lot of those guys do too. So yeah, you've got that humility and that hungry dog mentality, which fits in perfectly, obviously, with his entire team. So I'm hyped for it. I really can't wait to see training camp, because I think you're going to get tons of reports and probably, hopefully, some videos and content that we can actually utilize. But I think you're going to get a lot of things that are going to say, oh my gosh, okay, they're just raving about these players, because that's the right mentality you have going into camp. You got to prove it. You have to be able to prove it.
We're going to comments here in just 1 second. You mentioned Jalen Carter. We need to at least acknowledge something. With 2 weeks left in the offseason, the big question mark around Jalen Carter was twofold. One, what was he going to do once he got drafted, once he got a little bit of money, that immaturity that lurked over from the police investigation, what happened at Georgia? That's why he fell, right? We're 2 weeks away. We're 12 days from training camp. Jalen Carter has been in the news 0 times. Now, that's not true. He's been in it for twice. I've seen him twice. Once, working out. Twice inside the Eagles building with that rookie cook-off that they shared on their Twitter account where they were all making food for each other.
That was pretty cool.
That is it for Jalen Carter. The guy has been crystal clean, squeaky clean this offseason. For anyone who was curious, like most of us were, what Jalen Carter were we going to get? You showed a video of him today working out. He was working out. He's in the best shape that he's been in since being at Georgia.
He looks great.
We got the right Jalen Carter. I know it's still early, but you're telling me it's only going to go up from here, right? It's only going to go up when he gets in the building officially at training camp alongside Fletcher Cox and the rest of those boys. We got the good Jalen Carter, and that needs to be acknowledged. Credit to him.